Bump and run operations allow an engine company to deploy one line quickly, engage in firefighting activities, coil the line and attach it to the engine, and move to another location. Depending on fire conditions and the amount of resources available, crews may be ordered to perform bump and run operations. Bump and run allows for protection of a greater amount of property with a limited amount of resources. Here's how you can be effective using bump and run techniques. If you think there's a chance you may be involved in bump and run operations, then set your engine up in advance. Attach the specially designed orange straps to the top of the handles at the rear of the engine. These straps will allow coiled hose to be quickly attached to the rear of the engine. They also allow for quick deployment of that same hose. Remove the gated Y from the pigtail and attach it to a rear 2.5-inch discharge. You now have a discharge port for your 1 3/4 line. Let's take a look at the whole operation from the beginning. The main idea of bump and run operations is to stay mobile. The company officer should communicate to the crew when bump and run tactics will be employed. Pull the appropriate 1 3/4 line, making sure that whatever line you choose, you've chosen one that is 50 feet longer than actually needed. The reason you pull a line with 50 extra feet is so that when you're done using the line and it's time to break down and recoil it, the engineer can use this extra 50 feet as a protection line. The goal is not to put the fire out. Let the fire burn all of the fuel. Let it burn all the way up to the structures. Then, protect the structures with only the required amount of water needed. Remember to stay mobile and do not anchor into a hydrant. When you've done all you can in a short amount of time, it's time to shut the line down, pick it up, and move on. The nozzle man should bleed the line and detach the nozzle. The line should be broken at the 50-foot mark. The engineer should drain the 50-foot section and put it in service as a protection line. The rest of the crew should drag the remaining line to the rear of the engine. Most of the water will need to be drained from the hose before it can be loaded onto the back of the engine. You can either walk the water out before you begin to drag it, or drag the hose to the rear of the engine and then walk it out as you're coiling it. The topography will help determine what method works best for you. Use the width of the engine as a guide for how wide your quick coil should be. If you haven't already done so, walk the water out of the hose at this time. Continue coiling the hose. Reattach the nozzle. Lift one side and attach it to the rear of the engine using the buckles. Do the same for the other side. If you have a wildland box on your tailboard, you can place the nozzle behind the box. If no wildland box is in place, simply wrap the nozzle around the coiled hose. Another option is to use webbing and a carabiner and attach the bail to the carabiner. Depending on the fire conditions, use of a Wireland nozzle is an option. You can now proceed to your next location. Undo the buckles and deploy your line. Whenever possible, top off your tank with a garden hose. Remember, bump and run techniques allow for quick, mobile firefighting.